Hello, hello. Now, I did mention that I was grinding, of course, the Pan-Asian DD line. I've been a bit lazy at doing it, but I figured this game is a pretty good example. The enemy has a Missouri, Des Moines, Chapayev, which means 3 radars. They, of course, also have 4 destroyers. So this is always going to be a challenge when you're facing multiple enemy destroyers, especially in the Pan-Asian DD, since you can't simply torp them. Now, the Chung Mu is very similar to the Fletcher. I've already covered the differences with the Fletcher in my original Chung Mu commentary, and in this game I'm actually playing in a division with a Baltimore and a Missouri teammate, but I actually end up playing mostly solo and not really benefiting too much from the division. So I figured it would still make a fairly good commentary, even though it is a 3-man division. And I know some of my viewers don't like when I play 3-man divisions, which I kind of understand. It does, like, you do play differently in divisions because, well, you have more reliable teammates, but then again, you also have to focus on them a bit more because you have to help them out and so forth. RPF points to the top right, so I know there might be something even closer than this Edinburgh. So I maintain my distance and I keep him spotted until he's forced to smoke. When a Royal Navy cruiser pushes into a cap like this, just keep him spotted. He's going to have to smoke up. He cannot stay in the open, because if he stays in the open, he's going to get shot by all your teammates, especially in an open cap like B on this map. So all I did was hold him spotted until he started slowing down and smoking, and as soon as he did this, I dropped torps into his smoke. Now, the chance of these torps hitting is actually fairly small, because any Royal Navy cruiser that has any sense will be running hydro when pushing into a cap, especially when he sees it's contested, and if he smokes up, he will almost certainly run hydro as well. So it's highly unlikely these torps will hit. However, I was keeping the Des Moines spotted, so that's why I stayed there. And in general, there's something else besides the Edinburgh close by, and I'm gonna see if I can maybe keep that spotted as well. The problem is though that the enemy team is pushing quite heavily into C, and C is also contested. And if I look down to the south, you note that there's actually very little of my team there to scout for them. The Kaba won't scout, and even worse is of course that my team is the classic weekend team, which means that we have, what, 5 people going up north to A, which is of course the dumbest thing ever. A is a horrible cap on Islands of Ice, and you should never go to A. The only reason to go to A is if you're a single destroyer and you can solo cap it real fast, but going up there with like more than almost half our fleet is a terrible idea. Especially since the only thing they're facing is 1 Missouri. So this is already going to be a bit tricky, since we're going to be heavily outnumbered, because the enemy team was not dumb enough to send as many members north as my team was. But luckily, I do have a division, so I know I'm going to have some support when I push into C. So I will happily go down here and scout for them, and see if we can maybe cap this, contest this, whatever else. I did drop another set of torps on the Edinburgh before I left, because the second torp volley probably has a significantly higher chance of hitting, since he's going to be forced to move, since his smoke will run out. And that's exactly what happened. I landed 2 torpedoes on him, and that's 30k damage, so he's very, very chunked. He'll be able to heal up a bunch of it, but cruisers can only heal 30% of citadel damage. Battleships can only heal 10, but it's still a huge chunk of health that will be permanently gone from him. Now, Baltimore is under some pressure here, and he's struggling to get a chance to shoot because, well, they have so many forces down here, and the Baltimore armor isn't exactly impressive. So I lay down a smoke screen for the sake of my Baltimore, so he can pop out and he can radar, and in general he can be a bit more useful than he normally would because of the lack of armor that the ship has. So I'm laying down basically a smoke wall. That's one of the great advantages of the Pan-Asian DDs, is that, of course, the bloom time is 30 seconds, which means you can lay down these huge smoke walls. As you see, I pretty much cut him off from the entire enemy team, so they won't be able to spot him. I also drop preemptive torps. There's multiple ships down there. I might hit the turrets, I might hit some of the ships that come behind him. There's a huge chance of landing multiple hits here, so obviously I take this opportunity. There's a Grozovoi down south. I don't really want to push in there, because if I push south into the Grozovoi and he spots me and then I'm without a smoke, not only does the Grozovoi firepower have a huge chance of wrecking me, but he also has tons of backup, not to mention a Chapayev, so the risk of radar is always present as well. We are not able to cap it because the battleships have pushed into the cap. My team up north has killed the Missouri, but they are wasting so much time securing that cap and so much time moving down to B as they should. So we are still heavily outnumbered down in the south. My preemptive torps score a bunch of hits on the Bismarck and the Tirpitz. That is of course the power of these deep water torps. If you're not running hydro, you will be eating a ton of them, and it's possible they were running hydro, but they still ate them because once again these torps are very fast as well. I think there were 66 knots of speed, so not easy to dodge these things. I spot the Grozovoi. That prompts me to pop my own smoke since I want to disengage as soon as he's dead. Problem is he is unspotted. But he is moving forward into my Baltimore's range at this point. I don't know if it's Baltimore radar or just the Grozovoi moving up. I think it might be teammate radar at this point, but that's a very important kill. Once again, drop another volley of preemptive torps, and I move up so I can smoke my teammate here. This gearing should move though, because we just killed the Grozovoi from a smoke, so there should be torps incoming. And as I say that, there are torps incoming. If you see a DD sail full broadside next to your smoke as you're firing and he knows you're in there, you should be expecting torps. My gearing does not expect the torps, and he eats 2 of them and he's down to 100 health. So that's a bit unfortunate for him, but honestly, that's something you should expect. Chapaev with 6 health is radaring me. I don't really want to leave the cap though, because I got 48 seconds of influence on this cap, which means I only need 12 more seconds to finish this cap. So rather than flee in a panic, I just call target on him and hope that one of my teammates will shoot him once, so I can maintain this influence, because I really want to flip this cap for my team. Because our team is still stuck in the north. Yes, it's 8 minutes, and that entire force that went to A and only faced 1 enemy, they are still wasting time up there. And this is of course extremely common, but it's a very common problem. People on Islands of Ice go to A and then they're useless pretty much half of the game. Luckily, the enemy sent 2 DDs up there to fight them, and the 2 DDs somehow managed to get themselves killed. So my team north that had horrible positioning kinda accidentally ended up being more useful than they should have been, which is of course good for my team. At this point though, the enemy has too many battleships in this cap. I'm not going to be able to secure it because I want to get new torpedo angles, since the angle I'm firing from should be fairly predictable. However, I think it's a good angle because I'm getting a lot of broadsides. I'm able to spread them out across multiple targets, and they are of course deep water torps, so if these battleships aren't running hydro, they are in for a very rude surprise. Another thing is I want to go spot this Tashkent as well, because I don't want him circling in on me. It's possible he's pushing into the cap, and that's in fact exactly what he is doing. I don't want to get spotted yet, because if I open up fire and I shoot right now, I will warn those battleships. But the torps finally land, 7 hits, massive damage, and at this point it's perfectly fine if I do have to smoke up my shoot, because well, my torps have already landed, it's too late for the battleships to dodge. So I smoke up and I start trading fire with the Tashkent. And well, I should be able to just wait for him to push up further. I have to smoke because he has 2 battleships supporting him. But more importantly, he should be spotted soon. He's used the smoke earlier in the south, so I know he doesn't have a smoke, which means I have a complete smoke advantage over him at this point. So I should be able to just farm him, and my Kaba will keep him spotted. Hopefully. Hopefully. I'm about to move out of the smoke just to finish this kill, but he finally gets spotted again, so I should be able to kill him from stealth, which is exactly what I want. No reason to take unnecessary damage. And he does die. I expect the Iowa to turn in, or well, turn away, instead of sailing the way he's going right now, so I drop a bit of a predictive torps, and I disengage a bit further away, because well, the Bismarck is moving my way, and you don't want to get stuck in an awkward position with a hydro battleship pushing you. It looks like the Iowa, however, isn't changing course, so I open up fire on him, hoping to maybe make him make evasive maneuvers. This is a pretty common tactic. If it looks like your torps aren't going to land, shoot them. Usually that makes them start evading or turning or whatever, and if you're lucky, they'll turn into your torps. However, the torp just barely misses and he doesn't make any actual evasive maneuvers. At this point though, this should be a win. We managed to stop them, halt their push completely down in the south, and 11 minutes later, our team from the north has finally joined us in fighting where the main majority enemy fleet actually is located, which is of course down here, down at the sea capture point. I'm waiting for my debuff to disappear, and I want to get close and launch torps on this Iowa. Note, of course, when you go for torps like this, don't launch both torps at once, especially since I intend to fire as well. You don't know what kind of change of course he'll make. So I launch one volley, and then I wait a second to see what kind of maneuver he is planning on making. It looks like he is starting to turn left. Yes, he's turning left, and only now when I know where he's going, I launch predictive torps that way. However, the torps on the Chung Mu are so incredibly fast that even though my prediction wasn't perfect on my first set, thanks to the great speed they have, they will probably still catch him. And the torps do in fact catch him and nail him with 3 of them, and that's another devastating strike on a battleship this game. And at this point the game ends because, well, the enemy has gotten kind of crushed. And I end up with 217,000 damage, and the XP is of course 21,000, which is very nice. I do run multiple XP flags whenever I get my daily wins, since even though I haven't been grinding the Pan-Asians too much, I still like to make the grind as short as possible. 15 torpedo hits, which is of course a pretty absurd count, but that is when you face multiple battleships with your deep water torps, they are so easy to land hits with, because of course if the enemy doesn't run hydro or doesn't start evading plenty in time, they have no actual warning about the torpedoes. They just pop up right next to them and they get wrecked. Team score wise, 2.5k base XP, which is of course very, very nice, and overall my division followed up quite soon after that. The Minotaur that went up north and basically got all the DD kills ended up 3rd as well. The battleships that went up north didn't really get much, not surprisingly, because you shouldn't go to A on Islands of Ice. But we won the game, so more than likely next game they will do exactly the same thing, thinking it was the correct choice, which is a bit awkward. Detailed report wise, spotting damage 74,000, but that is of course the advantage of not sitting in your smoke yourself, but spotting for your team so they can be useful. Potential damage not too much. Generally I didn't really take any damage this game. The only damage I took was when I fought, I think, the Tashkent, and then I took 2,000 damage. That's pretty much it. The rest of the time I was completely unscratched, and I could have gone on to grind another 200,000 damage without any issues. Bread and butter is of course your torps on this ship. The deep water torps are amazing against everything that isn't a destroyer, and this game really showed the strength they have. Finally, of course, credits and XP. Well, with all the flags I run, the bonuses and the camo, you can see just how much it added up and how much XP I got from this game. Anyway, I can show you guys my recommended build for this ship, although it hasn't changed. I'm using exactly the one I recommended in my last one, but people always ask me about the build regardless, so I might as well quickly show it off as well. Now, I'm pretty sure I already showed a basic build of what I recommend for the Chung Mu during the time I was testing it, but since it's no longer a work in progress and it's live and so forth, I might as well refresh what I was doing. First of all, I would say torpedo upgrade is probably the first thing you want to get on this ship, because you go from this horrible, well, not horrible, but well, I hate them, but they're not horrible. I hate them because they're so slow. You go upgrading the torps from the Benson torps to the Fletcher torps is what you want to do ASAP. You gain so much speed, range, damage, pretty much everything. It's simply worth. They even have a faster reload. They are simply superior in every possible way. So the torpedo upgrade is the absolute first one you should go for. Once you have the torpedo upgrade, then you can go for the hull and finally for the range. But the absolute first one should be the torpedoes. Consumable wise, run the premium smoke. It gives you that juicy fast cooldown, which means you can perma smoke if need be, which is a huge advantage on these Pan-Asian DDs. Follow it up with repair and speed boost in that order if you can afford it. Upgrade wise, turret and torpedo tube survivability, increased speed boost duration, AA range, acceleration, because your rudder shift is so good at 3.9. It's pretty borderline, honestly. I could understand if someone would run steering gears instead. I think both are pretty okay. But personally, because I like stopping in smokes and shooting a lot, I prefer the acceleration. But it's by no means 100% the best option. I would say steering gears is also a very, very good option. Concealment, faster torpedo reload. You saw the torpedo power the ship has. You want to have a faster cooldown. And captain perks wise, preventive maintenance, mostly for torpedo tube survival. Last stand, HP, survivability expert, and concealment expert. That's the first 10 points. Follow it up with 12 points, so you get adrenaline rush. 15 points, so you get torpedo armament expertise, and then the last 4 points into radio location. Now, because you cannot torp based on RPF, which is something I do a lot, RPF isn't as valuable. I still think RPF is by far one of the best perks you can get on a DD, and I think it's hugely valuable on the Chung Mu. But if you absolutely despise RPF for some weird reason, then other options I could recommend is Vigilance, less risk of being torped in smoke, or personally I would probably go for BFT. Better AA and faster gun reload, and then the last point into priority target to know how many people are aiming at you. So if you really hate RPF, then I would probably go BFT and priority target. But honestly, I still think RPF is fantastic, and you should learn to use it rather than specking for something else, because the RPF is such a useful tool at all times. There's a reason why everyone who plays ranked at high tiers uses it on pretty much every single ship they own. And flag-wise, of course, well, detonation. I'm not running speed, but speed is always good. I don't think you really need it on this, but being faster is never a bad thing. Faster reload on the smokes, and I run fire chance on the guns. Other than that, I'm just running the XP flags to make the grind faster. Anyway, that was my Chung Mu commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it.